whether they deem you competent or not. It's bollocks.
Yeah. You know, that's one of my favourite words when I hear an English person say bollocks. I love it. Bollocks. Welcome to another episode of Earthworks Hub, guys. Thank you for joining us. Today we are going worldwide. I've got a couple of lads here from the UK. One you probably already know because I've had him on the show before. So I have Matt from Agridig. He comes to us from Wales in the UK. So Matt, for those of you that don't know or haven't watched that past video, he operates many various types of machines and offers a lot of people advice on operating, helps a lot of young people out. He is a TikTok sensation. I think he's got over 100,000 followers. So Matt, very experienced guy who always is prominent in the TikTok world. And then on top of that, we have Chris from DOTTS, otherwise known as the Dozer trainer. Thanks for joining us, Chris. So Chris, you're from...
Thanks for having me.
No worries, man. Chris is, well, I'm going to say, am I saying this right? Is it called, the business called Doctore on Track Training Services? Is that right?
Well done. I've actually made a note of to talk about a bit about the company name in case you asked what it meant. But yeah, you're one of the minority who's pronounced it correctly.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, but yeah, well done. Yeah.
There you go. So you're actually in England, in the UK, also well known on TikTok, and like I said, known as the Dozer trainer. And you're always posting. Yeah.
I don't think I'm as well known as Matt.
Yeah, might get there.
I'm well known.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah, we won't go down that road.
Yeah, that's it. I think neither of us are at Matt's level yet. We're getting there, though. We're getting there. So Chris, like I was saying, he posts daily about his training videos on training people on the Dozer and other machines. And we've recently seen some changes in his business due to weather conditions and that as well. But we'll get to that. So first of all, yes, once again, thank you, gents, for joining.
I wish.
All right, beautiful. Yes, so maybe what we can do, we'll skip around a little bit, but let's talk about this Trump win. So obviously yesterday he won the election. What do you guys think? What's your opinion?
Personally, I think it's a good move. Personally, I don't think he did anything wrong before. I thought it was pretty brash, pretty wild, pretty out there. He stuck to whatever he said he was going to do. He did, and I think the USA need that in their lives. Everybody will have their own opinion on it, just like we've got our own opinion on who runs our country, which we can talk about as well.
He does what he said he was going to do, didn't he? He said he was going to do it, and he backed it up by doing it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing he's always promoted since the election. One thing he always promoted was that if he got sort of like reinstated, he'd stop the war. So that's an interesting thing. Let's see.
But it wasn't no wars. It wasn't no wars. It wasn't no wars when he was in power.
No,
it wasn't.
He's always He's always said, like, if I was still in power, there'd be no war. So let's see.
Yeah, wasn't he the first president or whatever that went and actually shook hands with the North Korean or South Korean guy? What's his name? I think he was the only president that actually went and saw him.
Kim Jong-un or something, his name, isn't it?
Yeah, like that, yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah. I used to love him, and I used to always think he was a good businessman. Then I sort of started changing my opinion a bit, thinking, no, he's just a show pony. It's all about show and self-interest and that. I don't know, but I don't really follow it that much to know exactly what's happening. But I just I used to love him, and I used to watch him on. He used to have his own show. What was it called? When what was that show called on TV? Where they used to have he used to hire people and say you're fired, and they used to fire him at the end. Oh,
Dragon's Den.
Is that the one? Something like that, yeah.
No.
What in England?
No, what's the,
I know.
What's the one with Lord Sugar in? What's the one with Lord Sugar in over here? Yeah. The Apprentice.
The Apprentice. Yes, The Apprentice. Yeah, he was the main guy. Yeah, he used to. Yeah, people would come on the show. Yeah, they come and try and trial out, and then at the end he'd hire the best person out of the group. Yeah, So I don't know. I always thought he was a bit of a show pony, but he actually, if he's that good of a businessman, then hopefully he can run the country just as
Really
good. You know.
must be a good businessman because he got loads of money.
Yeah.
Well,
True.
that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
True.
He is minted. He is the most powerful person in the world, isn't he?
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, let's see how it goes, huh? All
Yeah.
right. So let's go back to I suppose our Earthworks world. Maybe we'll start with Matt just a little bit. So Matt, we had a chat. Maybe I think you were one of the first couple of guys that I spoke to. So I've been doing this for about a year now. It's actually coming up to a year anniversary.
Is it a year?
Yeah, it's already
year? Yeah.
already a year, man. So we had a good chat. You were one of my guests on the show. So back then you were working on this motocross mountain. You were working in the Dozer at like a coalface or something, I think it was. So what's been happening? Tell us what's happened since we spoke last.
I've taken a step back, really. I don't do much of the motocross track no more. Yeah.
And
just I make a lot of time with myself now and my son.
Yeah. So what was that taking up?
I don't get to see him. I don't get to see him as much now because obviously he's 14 now. That's all he wants to do is go out with his friends. So I got to spend all the time I go with him.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's true. My son's 15, is the same thing. And now he's starting to see his mates, and slowly, I know what's going to happen. He's going to be out doing his own thing. So I feel you. I feel you. So what are you doing?
Still doing that.
Yeah, what are you doing nowadays?
Yeah, just work for a groundwork company and just do my own little bits on the side on the weekends. You know, just do odd jobs, isn't it? I don't do much as I used to.
Yeah.
Christ, I was doing like over 100 hours a week.
100 hours?
Yeah, I was probably doing averaging about 400 odd hours a month.
Gee, that's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of hours. Yeah,
that's the same. That's the same as what we do. As obviously running a business, it's like you do your day job, and then you come home and you never stop. It's constant. It's all the time. Like we go on holiday, it's all the time. Like people say to me, "Do you have two phones?" I'm like, "No, I have one phone." My wife's got two phones now because she just got sick. She gets more calls than I get. I just stick to the one phone because I can't be doing with the two phones. But we go on holiday, and if the phone rings, I've got to answer it.
Yeah.
Regardless, because if I don't answer the phone, if it's for a training course or something like that, if I don't answer the phone, they're going to ring the next person, and then if the next person rings the phone, I've lost a sale, if you like, or I've lost an opportunity for potential, like a lot of work kind of thing. So I always answer my phone. So I never switch off. Same as Matt. Yeah. Like the hours what we put in is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, since we're talking about your business, tell us a little bit about your business there, Chris, as well. So what do you actually do there?
So all I've ever done is plant. That's all I know. That's from 17, 18 years old. That's all I've ever done is drive plant. And I can't DIY. I can't do electrics. I can't do gas. I can't do water, but I can drive machines. So. Been operating for 30 years, and then just before COVID, a couple of years before COVID, I was contracted. I had to set a limited company up, and I was contracted into a company to do a load of rail training, sort of like for the machines what sit on track. So your excavators, your dumpers, your dozers, but they're all rail mounted. So I was contracted to do a lot of that. So which forced me to set a limited company up. So me and my wife had to think of a name for the company because the long-term goal was always to make something of it and not just set a company up for the sake of setting a company up. So that's where the name Doctore On Track Training came from, because we train people on track, so the on-track training services was a given. But then we wanted something, we overcomplicated it because no one, like you're the minority, no one can pronounce it properly. Everybody always says doctor or doctor tracks or doctoree, so nobody knows.
That's what I call it, doctor.
There's only a few people who can pronounce it properly, and there's not many people who know like the meaning behind it. So a doctore is basically a lead gladiator within a ludus, and the ludus is where they train on the gladiators. So how it came about was the doctore who wasn't a doctor to start with. He was just a slave. He was a slave just like the rest of them. So he was fighting for the emperors, and he was there to put on shows and entertain the people and stuff like that. But then he became the best of the best of the best, yeah. And then he became the doctore. So the emperors sort of like selected him then to be the doctore, which is basically the cock of the slaves, if you like. You know what I mean? So then he trained all the slaves that got brought in. He trained them all, and that's where the term, or that's where the name doctore comes from. If you ever watch Spartacus, have you seen the series Spartacus?
Yeah, I've seen the film Spartan. Is it?
No, if you watch the sort of like more recent Spartacus series, it's really good. It's got some good adult theme in it as well. But it's really it's a true sort of it's a true likeness to how it was. That's kind of where it came from. So basically that's where I came from. I was nothing to start with, and then I built up and built up and built up, and you know what I mean. And then I've created a business, and I've created I always say to my wife, sort of like, we're building an empire, and that's what we're doing. Yeah. So we do both the rail training and we do the civils training as well. But yeah, that's where it came from. Yeah. So
it takes a lot of doctor.
Yeah, doctor with an E on it, but it's pronounced doctore.
Yeah.
So Ivan, you got it right.
There you go. I have to admit something, gents. I saw one of your old posts, and that's why I knew how to say it. Because it was a post I found where you said that exact same thing, and I was like, I better get it right when I say it. Then.
Oh, so you cheated then? You cheated.
I cheated.
You cheated.
I cheated. Yeah.
Every now and again, I put a post up. In fact, I did one just recently, a couple of days ago. Every now and again, because I found a new picture.
Yes.
Something came up on my newsfeed, and I looked at the picture and I showed Katie. I said, "Look at this. This is awesome." And then it prompted me again then to put a post up saying "doctore" pronounced "doctore."
Yeah, that's the one I saw. That's the one I saw. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I thought, what the hell is this about? I didn't know. I didn't know.
So at the end of your
where it comes from.
At the end of your training, I'm imagining this like Spartan movie scene where they're all at the end, all the dozer operators just go, hoo, oh, hoo, oh. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, in my head, that's how it should be.
Yeah. No, that's it. So you guys obviously have a training organisation. What type of training? So you're saying rail and civils. What specific type of machines and that do you train people on?
So when we set the company up, we did it predominantly for rail. So basically, wheeled excavators, MUPs, mobile elevated working platforms, dumpers, dozers even go on rail. And then we've got these things called HPVs, which is like highway permissible vehicles, like little gators, basically, all that sort of stuff. It's all the machines that can be rail mounted. That's what we went into. So you've got the operator side of things, which so the operators operate them, but then you've got machine controllers or crane controllers who control everything from ground. So if a machine goes onto rail, it's got to have a machine controller with it. If a machine's on rail and it lifts, it's got to have a crane controller with it. So we do the training for the machine operators, and we do the training for the machine controllers and the crane controllers as well. And then we've got one of our trainers who's a safety critical trainer who does basically safety critical stuff, which we don't really like doing because it's really complex and it can go it can become difficult to do. So we try not to do that. Our background is plant. Myself is plant. All my trainers who were picked to train the hand selected within the industry, like the very, very well recognized trainers. They're all operational as well, because that's another thing what I'm big on. Like I won't teach anyone anything if I can't do it myself. So all the trainers that I selected, they're all sort of like niche in what they do themselves. They've all got their own background in what they do, and that's kind of how I wanted. I wanted to be different. I wanted to sort of like come into the industry and be a lot different to anybody else who's doing it because of the way what we do it. So when you think about the rail training side of things in the UK, there's probably, I don't know, maybe it's 180 providers who are registered as accredited rail training providers. I've probably got three, I've probably got 3 of the best. They're not the best, but the 3 of them within the whole industry. And myself included, the way I do things on the civils, I'm really specific on who I allow to train for me and who I allow to test for me as well. And I'm very particular on if I ever if I train somebody and I wanted that person to then go and do a test with somebody, I'm very particular on who they go to as well, because of conflict of interest within the industry and stuff like that. Put it this way, there's a lot of other training providers in the UK what don't like what I do, so it's one of them. So we stay in our lane. I do things the way I do things. I do it my way, and that's the way I do it, and it works, and it's proven that it's worked because of the way I do it. Like, I don't think there's a bad driver out there, whether they're experienced, whether they got a sort of a mediocre pass, or whether they just met the test standard or anything like that, or whether they were a natural at it. I don't think there's a bad one out there. Then no one's ever come back to me and said, "Oh, Chris trained him," or Doctore trained him. They're shit. Like, no one's ever come back to me and said that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I want to keep it as well.
Yeah, because I know we were saying offline, and Matt was telling me this. You're very selective with who you pick to train as well, isn't it? So you won't just train any Tom, Dick, or Harry, isn't it?
No. So when we started the rail training side of things, I wasn't really bothered about the civils side of training. I drove the civils machines. My background's civils, my background's demolition. Then I went into rail and utilities and pipelines and stuff like that. And then when COVID hit, this is where the civils training came from. I trained a little bit of civils before, but never bothered testing anybody because I didn't have my tester tickets, and I wasn't really bothered about it. So I was training people, and then they were going off and getting tested by other people and stuff like that. And then when COVID hit, the company who I was contracting to as a limited company just basically turned around and said, "That's it, we're done. We don't know what's happening," because nobody knew what was happening. So my wife furloughed me for a bit. Basically, she took me out of work while we decided what was happening. We didn't have no childcare or anything like that, so we didn't know what was happening with the childcare. And then I think I lasted about 2 or 3 weeks of being furloughed, and I just said to her, I can't do this. Like, we need to find someone to look after our kids. She needs to work still because COVID never affected her job because she worked remotely anyway. And I just made a couple of phone calls, and then I just went back out driving. And when I was out there driving, I was on a Dozer, and I just looked around and just thought, like, what is going on here? Like, where have you all come from? How did you do your training? Where did you do your training? What did they show you when you did your training? Because in a nutshell, you don't really know what you're doing. So we already had the business established, but because of COVID, we had restrictions. And then slowly but surely, the phone started ringing again, and people wanted to come in for training and book courses and stuff like that. So that's when I decided I seen a gap in the market, specifically for dozers. And I just said to my wife, I says, I'm going to start focusing purely on dozers, and I'm going to change the way it's trained, because the way I've seen, from what I've seen in the industry here, this ain't right. So that's what I did. And I can remember talking to somebody, one of the first people who ever came to me. He never came to me for a dozer course. He'd already got his ticket from somewhere else, and he'd heard about me, and he heard about what we were doing, and he came and had 2 days with me. And he said, within them 2 days, he says, I've learned more from you within 2 days, if not just from talking to you, than I did from when I did my initial training. And it was just silly little things. Like, I did a little bit of an assessment on him, silly little things like just watching what he did with his blade, how he controlled it. He completely forgot about his tracks on the machine. Tracks on a dozer is your second tool. Just little things like that. And he went away from that, and then he come back to me, like phoned me up, and he told me. And that's when I thought, right, I'm gonna change the way it's done. And I like to think that I have changed the way it's been done. Whether or not anybody wants to follow suit and do what I do is down to them. But I just know that the way I do it is the way I want to do it, because that's the way it should be done. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And then we started branching out in diggers and ADTs and rollers and stuff like that. But that's not really my thing. Diggers and dozers is my thing. Dump trucks, rollers is not my thing. But we do it because it's part and parcel of the package, if you like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But being selective over who I train, yeah. Going back to that. Sorry, I digressed there, didn't I? Yeah. Going back to who I train is you've got hurdles. I mean, just going back to one of the things when you mentioned about Matt being on the motocross track and stuff like that. That's probably one of the biggest one in England, if you like. And I take my hat off to likes of Matt. Like, he's got a great opportunity, or had a great opportunity with the job that he was on. Like having access to all those machines. Like here in the UK, we haven't really got access to machines like that. It's only on specific niche jobs like what Matt was on. And like when Matt used to send me the videos and stuff like that, and when we spoke, I'm like, that is machine porn at its best.
Yeah.
Because he's got the access to them. You know what I mean? So going back to being selective, there's hurdles in which you've got to get to. So anybody who wants to come into the industry, if they've got no site experience or anything like that, or no machine experience, you start with the baby stuff, like your little forward tipping dumpers and your rollers. You know what I mean? You get onto site, you gain the experience, you see how a site works, and then you start to progress onto bigger and better things. But what happens, one of the biggest problems in here with not the way I do things, but from what I can see in the industry is if somebody rang me up and said, I want to do a digger course, I want to do a dozer course, like the first question I ask is, what's your background? What's your experience? What have you done? If they say they work on a site, I'm like, what do you do? And then they'll tell me, and then I will make that decision then based on what they've told me as to what I think they should be doing. So if somebody rang me up and said, I'm a bricklayer, I've been on site for 10 years as a brickie, I want to drive a dozer, I'd be like, I won't train you. I won't train you on a dozer. You need to gain machine experience, plant experience, site experience on loads of different sites before you start to go onto complex machines like a dozer, for example, or a digger, even. You know what I mean? So I'm very selective.
Sorry.
Yeah, so go ahead.
People think that the dozer, you just push the blade down and you just push. People don't realise your hands are moving constantly, adjusting the blade. They think they just stick the blade to the floor and just push, and it, you know.
Yeah.
See, I get that a lot as well. I get a lot of guys who'll ring me up and say, can I book in for a dozer test with you? And I'll say, what's your background? What have you done? And I know what they're going to say. They're going to say, I've just pushed out. I've pushed out on a tip, or I've just pushed out on a fill site. And I'll turn around to them and say, you won't be able to do it, because the technical criteria of achieving a test is completely different to just pushing out once the dump truck's pushed in front of you, or you're just pushing off a tip or something like that. When you put the blade in the ground and start to extract material to a tolerance, it becomes a whole different sort of kettle of fish. So we started doing it in the beginning. We started sort of like saying, yeah, you could drive a dozer. I wouldn't say I was naive, but I think I was putting my faith in them and believing what they were telling me, which was true. And then they were coming to do the test, and I'd say, like, this is what you need to do. This is what you can fail on. This is what you can accumulate penalties on. You've got this amount of time to do it in. Away you go. And they didn't know what to do, and it just become difficult, and they were failing. And obviously, we get monitored here in the UK under the accreditation scheme. We have, because it's controlled by the accreditation, we get monitors that turn up anytime they want. You know what I mean? So it was just, it was a difficult one. So what we do now is, when I get them phone calls, and I still do get them phone calls, I'll vet them. I'll go through, I'll interview them, if you like, and then I'll advise them on what I think they need to do. And then when they come to do it, they'll come for sort of like a day's training. So prep and test, they'll have a day's training so we can show them what to do for the test, and then they'll do the test the next day. And when they come and do the training and we show them what to do, they were like, I'm so glad I booked on for one day's training. They can drive a dozer, but there's no way they would have been able to do the test because they didn't prep for it. So yeah, I'm really, really selective on how we do it. One, because I don't want people to fail. Two, I want the guys to be able to go out there and do what they want to do and do what they've got a passion for. You know what I mean? I want to help people, like Matt. Matt wants to help people. Okay, I want to help people as well. I'm not in this for myself in terms of like, oh, I don't want you to come through and take my seat because I'm out there. I'm not out there. I've done my time out there. I don't need to go out there. Do you know what I mean? I want to produce specimens and send them out there, and people say, "Who trained you?" And they're like, "Chris at Dots." And I'm like, "Yeah." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. All right. So just going a little bit off what you were saying a bit earlier. So you're in what part of the England are you in there?
I'm in the Midlands. So when you look at the UK, or when you look at England, I'm bang smack in the middle. So a place called Ashby de la Zeus. It sounds like it's it sounds like it's French.
Yeah.
I think it is entwined with France. But yeah, a little historic market town called Ashby de la Zeus. Trying to think of the closest city to it. Nottingham. You've got Nottingham, Derby, and Leicester. I'm in the middle there. But originally I'm from Doncaster, which is South Yorkshire, so north.
Okay, yeah. And the reason I ask that is because I do notice a lot of the videos that Matt produces, and probably the same as yourself, it looks like it's always wet and damp. It's like it's always wet. So that's why I'm asking. Like, I know you guys are pretty far apart, and it still looks like it's similar weather. And how do you handle that weather being wet all the time? Is it really actually like that? Is it wet all the time?
Go on, Matt. I'll let you talk about this bit, how it affects you, and then I'll say how it affects me.
In Wales, the difference between winter and summer, the rain just gets warmer in the summer. It does. It's constant. I don't know what it is. It's constantly raining. Crystal Town, Wales is renowned for raining 24/7. Like a lot of my followers are from over the States, and they say, "Christ, what? You need to get yourself home, man. It's a rain day." I thought, if we had a rain day, we wouldn't work all year. Do you know what I mean? It's constantly raining over here. It's just a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, so how do you handle it? So what do you do with all the wet material? Does your material get so soaked that it becomes sloppy, or is it becomes sloppy?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Soup. It's like
it's literally soup.
It's a consistency of plasticine, which changes from plasticine to goo, and then eventually to soup, depending on how many times it's rained. But how the weather affects me, if it's raining, I can't train, and if I can't train, I can't do my job, and if I can't do my job, I haven't got a business model. So this is one of the big, really, really big issues for me. You'll see a lot of my content is all to do with ground conditions, how bad the weather's affecting us. If I worked for somebody, on hire for somebody, the weather wouldn't bother me. If it's raining, happy days. I get a rain off. Yeah, I don't get paid as much because I'm getting stand down money. But at the end of the day, it's not my problem. But when it's raining, when it rains for me on the ground, and I'm trying to run courses, and what you've got to remember is, I might have one. Well, I'll have two guys. I'll have two guys booked on a course, and this would have been booked ages ago. So they've took time off work. They've booked hotels, and then we come to do the course. I can't help the weather, and if it's raining, don't get me wrong. If it's a drizzle and we can handle it because of the rain and it's not going to affect the ground too much, we'll carry on. But if it's absolutely bouncing, as in lashing it down, and it's just making the ground even worse, then there'll come a point where I won't compromise the quality of the training what I deliver. If it's raining and we can't run the course, we can't run the course. But then it has a ripple effect backwards, because they've took time off work, they've booked hotels, they're losing money. It's costing them money to book hotels and stuff like that. They paid to do the training with me. So it's one of them things, and it got to a point where it was really, really sort of like getting to me, sort of like mentally, not because I'm running a business. Luckily for me, there's two sides of the business. There's the rail side of the business, which the weather doesn't affect. Yeah. The only thing what will affect the rail side of the business is snow. That is the only thing what will affect it, because you get snow on the track. As the dolly wheels run across the track, it starts to embed and compact, and it'll derail the machine. That is about the only thing what will stop rail training. Rain won't stop
Chris,
rail training.
have you got your own set of tracks then in your training centre, or do you take them elsewhere to train on the rail?
No, so we've got access. We'll say access. We've been. So years and years and years ago, when I was with Balfours, we had access to a heritage centre. The heritage centre is basically a redundant centre. It's not connected lively to the main. It's connected to the infrastructure, but it's basically it's not for passenger trains or freight trains or anything like that. And we call them heritage centres. So we've got miles and miles and miles of track. We've got twin, double, single. We've got sidings, we've got depots, we've got platforms, we've got points, we've got crossings, we've got miles of it. So it is as real as it gets. It is like a proper infrastructure, but we don't have live trains coming through it.
And what? And
gone down.
So you get to use that, do you, for your training?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it is as real as it gets. It's the real thing. That's another thing as well with the training. What I do as well, I try to make the training as real as it gets. So we have technical test criteria is what we've got to do for the learners to pass a test. I won't show them that until 3 days before their test. So if they're booked on a 10-day course with me, we won't touch anything to do with the test until about 3 days before, because everything what I've done prior to that is building them up to basically, right, now do me this. And because everything what I've done with them before, they're like, right, okay, and they'll do it, and they're like, well, that was easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going back to selecting who I train, every now and again, we'll get someone who'll lie, so they won't be entirely truthful about it. So they'll basically blag me about their experience. It's happened quite a lot lately, which is annoying, because if they were just truthful with me to start, then obviously the course or the training would have gone a lot better. But what a few people have done just recently is sort of like lie about their experience on machines and site and stuff like that. And then it's not until they actually get there and I see them on the machine, I've got an expectation of them, thinking, because basically what they've told me, what they've done on the machine, and then I'll get them on the machine, and they'll be like, I wasn't entirely truthful with you. I'm like, okay, so but
you can see somebody's experience within 2 minutes of operating. Yeah. You can see it straight away.
But I've got to see him, Matt, before I do that. So if I've had a phone call conversation with them and I've been dealing with them previous to them booking on, and what they're telling me, I've got no reason to disbelieve it. And then what can I do? I can't say prove it. Show me some photos. Yeah. Let me speak to your boss. I can't prove it. It's when they turn up, that's when they'll be truthful and say, I wasn't really truthful with you. I've had half an hour on a dozer. When certain individuals have said, I've worked on a farm, I've done this, I've done that, I've done this, I've been on these dozers, I've been on these graders, and then they turn up and they haven't, and then I'm like, gosh, this is going to be difficult. You know what I mean? So that impacts and dictates the way that the training goes.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate sometimes, because I'll have two on a course. One of them's been truthful, and one of them's not been truthful. And what happens is the one who's not been truthful holds the one who's been truthful behind, because he was truthful about things. He's progressing. Let's go. We're gonna make it as real as we get. But the guy who's not been truthful then holds the one who's been truthful back, because the only thing I can concentrate on now is trying to get them through, train them up basically to pass a test, and it's not fair. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another problem what we have that's another problem I have as well. But weather, if the weather's crap and the ground's crap, I can't train. And like
so send us some sun over.
What's that, Matty?
Send us some of that sun over.
Yeah. Yes. We can send you. Well, in Melbourne, it's our summer. It's very, very slow going though. It hasn't really warmed up until the last maybe week or two, but it's starting. And what happens here is though, it doesn't get warm. It doesn't get warm slowly. It just bloody comes whack, just gets hot, 30, 40 degree hits, and then just goes back to raining and cold. And then just whack another 30 or 40 degree couple of days, and then nothing again. So it's not very consistent. So Melbourne is what they all tell us is 4 seasons in one day. I think it's become 4 seasons in 1 hour here. It's very unpredictable. But
we have one season.
Just wet.
We have one season. It's grim.
Grim.
It's just grim. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grim. Yeah. So we're not, but it is starting to warm up a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, why I was talking about the weather earlier is that I noticed some of your posts where you were saying that you've changed locations recently because the other one was just too difficult. The other location was too difficult to work with. Tell us a bit about that move.
Yeah. So the civils, where my civils machines and where I had my rail machines were 40 mile apart. Now, the vision has always been to have the civils machines and the rail machines working together under one roof, if you like. But because of not politics, just certain circumstances, it never kind of worked out like that. I think we're on plan D now in terms of getting planning permission for land and stuff like that. But the vision was always to be where we had the rail machines. So last year I struggled with the weather and the ground because we've had, I don't know if you know, Ivan, but we've had 2 proper shit summers. Like last year wasn't very good. This year's been even worse, and I'm predicting next year is going to be even worse again. It's just the way the seasons have changed and just the way our climate is at the minute. I mean, I don't think it's going to get any better. So last year I had a bad year. This year I've had a bad year. The landowner who I was paying rent to and stuff like that, he wouldn't come to the table in terms of helping me mitigate any problems with the rain and stuff. So it was stressful. Cut a long story short, the place got flooded because there was nowhere for the water to go. And when I say there's nowhere for the water to go, there literally was not anywhere for the water to go. And because we was on clay, it just wouldn't drain. Yeah, and we was in a dip, and it didn't matter. Like a lot of people have said, "Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" Like I have tried everything. Trust me. If
I was one of them.
Tried it.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. I said, why don't you buy some carp and chuck some carp in it?
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Why don't I buy a boat? I know.
Start a different business. You can do boat licenses,
fishing. Fish farming.
Yeah, fish farming.
So there was nowhere for it to go. The only option we did have was a storm drain. That was the only option. But obviously you can't just basically open the top of the storm drain and just let it go in there. There was sort of like certain measures what we had to put in place. Anyway, cut a long story short, the place got flooded, and I mean completely flooded, the worst it's ever been. I spoke to Katie, my wife. We was already in sort of like talks and stuff like that with the rail centre where the rail machines were, and it wasn't supposed to happen until December, January time. And I don't know. It's just almost like God's threw me a bone and they just said, yeah, bring them over now. So as soon as they did that, we moved locations, and then it was kind of. I always got anxious about the weather, and I always got anxious about the ground at the old place. Going to a new place, I knew the rail machines were all right because, like I said to you before, nothing stops the rail apart from snow. This was an unknown territory again for me because I knew where I was going to put the rail machines, the civils machines, but it was all basically.
It wasn't the same.
It was a forest.
Yeah.
So I didn't know where the levels were. I didn't really know how big it was because I couldn't get a gauge for it because you couldn't see anything. I'd been over sort of like a few months back and I've got a little Takuchi 225, and I just had a little nibble away into the forest, and I had a little dig around, and I got rid of some trees, and I dug down to see what the ground was like. But it was too heavy for like a 2.5 ton machine. I didn't know where the levels were, so moving the machines over to this new site, as exciting as it was also really, really nerve-wracking because I didn't know if it was going to work out.
Yeah, what if it's the same? Yeah, what if you go all that, do all this, and it's exactly the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but then we started picking it apart. I started finding the levels, started opening it all up, seeing what I had to work with, and once I started to open it up, and once I got sort of like into the ground and seeing what I was working with, I sort of like I thought, yeah, this is good. This like we'd had a lot of rain as well. Like when I moved the civils machines from the old site to the new site, it basically rained all week. It rained all week, all weekend, and I think I got the last of the machines on the Tuesday over to the new site, and it had non-stop rained, but it never stopped me.
Yeah.
The ground allowed me to just keep going, and it was all right. It's brownhills, it's brownfields, it's industrial, so it's been used as basically when they cut one of the motorways out, sort of like in the area, everything what come out of the motorway kind of got built up around the surrounding areas and stuff like that. So it's a build up of all sorts of different ground. So I'm still unpicking it. I'm still sort of like remediating the ground. I'm picking up bits of concrete, curb lines, tarmac, bits of slate. There's all sorts in it. But obviously, the more I go through it, the more I can unpick it. But it drains, and that is what's important to me. So I had 4 tests booked in. I had two on a Thursday, 2 on a Friday, and I managed to do them tests through the rain. It never stopped us, so I know that the ground drains, and that's all I need. And I was saying to my wife the other day, actually, like, because I was so stressed in the old place, and I had anxiety about the weather and the ground and stuff like that, and anxiety about letting the boys down because they took time off work. It used to stress me out. Like, I haven't got that anymore because I don't even check the weather forecast.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm not bothered. If it rains, it rains. If it rains, I'm just going to get wet.
Yeah.
Because the ground can take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just
so, yeah,
just do it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good move, and it's only going to get better. Like, I'm only sort of like 4 or 5 weeks, something like that, into the new place. So, like, in terms of what I've done, what I've managed to achieve at the new place up to now, in such a short space of time, is I can see the bigger picture. I can make it bigger. I can import ground. I'll import my own ground. You know what I mean? Because that's the only thing what I'm lacking there is materials. Because the material what's there is the material what's there, and I can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
What I need to do is I need to import some materials so I can build the buns and build the batters and have it, and zone it off into different areas and stuff like that. But yeah, it's good, and I'm a lot better place in there as well.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear, man. I'm very happy for you, because I know I always watch your posts, and I remember seeing all this wet, soupy material all the time. Every time you had videos, and you're starting to look like you're starting to get you down a bit too. Yeah. So
yeah, just depressing. Yeah. I was depressed all the time. I think
I'm just going to say that was depressing.
What's that?
Sorry. I was going to say,
no, go on.
Yeah, so depressing. It gets you down after a while.
Yeah.
It
does, doesn't it, Chris? It gets you down.
One of the posts I put up is like, I'd had enough that day. I genuinely had enough, and I think it was you, Matt, who said don't give up. I put a post up saying, like, I think it's time to call it a day. Like, and I just took a video of the site, and I just said, I says, we ain't got the climate for this. We just haven't. Or the ground what I was at, we didn't have the climate for. And I was ready. I was done with it. I was ready to fold the civil side of the business. Pardon?
Well, you would have regretted it if you give up.
Yeah, of course I'd regret it. It's my
That's
passion.
why I was like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You've got to keep on.
Yeah, I don't want to pack it in, but you know, when there's things what are out of your hand, you can't help it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the problem for me was always where I was, and the problem for me was the ground type what I had, and the fact that it wasn't my own place. That's what was the issue was, because if it was my own place, I would have invested into it to make it better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. It's good that you've moved, and hopefully that's going to work out a lot better for you. I've got so many more questions, man. I want to ask you about, what automation do you guys teach as well? Because you guys teach, obviously, your operators. Do you teach a manual operation in dozers as well as GPS or automation?
The GPS thing is it's it's a tricky one, this, right? So
I
on my
but I've always said you've got to learn to do it the old-fashioned way before you use the GPS. I've always said,
and I always
it.
say that, yeah. So I always say that as well. So we've only got the GPS for the Dozer, and because because the Dozer's got GPS, and I pay for the subscription and I pay for the license and stuff like that, it's there, it's available. So the courses include GPS, but the caveat is if you can get to it, and not everybody gets to it. Okay, and that is just basically exactly what Matt's just said there. GPS, I'll start to introduce the GPS to it as soon as you can demonstrate to me a good understanding of freehand, levels, methods, and processes. Once you've started to put that together, okay, and you're sort of like on your way to be able to achieve a test, then we'll start to introduce the GPS into the course, just as an extra bonus. But not everybody gets to it. So the guys who I've got on at the minute, it's the last day of training tomorrow, and then they're getting tested on Friday. They've not touched GPS, not even brought it out, because they just haven't got there. So
okay.
you've got to be able to have a good understanding of what you are doing with the machine. In terms of promoting the GPS as a standalone course for experienced operators who can drive dozers, I do a little bit of that, but again, I do it very different to other people. I'm hands-on, practical, probably an hour in the classroom, going through some theory and stuff like that, explaining sort of like the different subjects on it and kind of how it works. But I'm a big believer in you can't work something from you can't learn to do that from a classroom. The only way you're going to learn how to work GPS, especially on a Dozer, is to actually get in the machine with the screen in front of you, learn about your offsets, learn about your surfaces, learn about your models and stuff like that, and that's how you're going to sort of like touch on it. But I only do it for one day.
Yep.
I just give them a little taste for it, because if you can't pick it up in a day, I feel like I'm robbing them, because it's one of them things. It's like the difference between an iPhone and an Android phone. We've got in the UK, we've got a couple of different types of GPS. You've got Leica, you've got Trimble, you've got Komatsu Topcon or Topcon. They're the main ones. So it's the difference between an iPhone and an Android phone. You can make a phone call on an iPhone. You can make a phone call on an Android phone. You can send text on both.
Yeah.
How do you do a screenshot on an iPhone? How do you do a screenshot on an Android? It's just learning the different interfaces on each one, because they all do the same thing.
Yeah.
The blade's all set to an offset, whatever you set it, and away it goes. So they all do the same thing. So I try to keep it as one day, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Oh yeah, sorry, go. Oh,
no, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say. So what is the actual process? So just say I want to become an excavator operator and get ticketed or licensed. What is the process for you guys?
Start drinking.
That's going to be very hard.
No, start.
Yes. Start drinking.
Start drinking.
Because I know in that's all good. In Australia, you can go and do like there's a 1 day course or a 2 day course, or sometimes they've got like a week course where you can go and you just get trained exactly to someone like yourself, where you go, you get to sit on the machine, they show you all the basics, and then you get what they call the operator's ticket.
What's the operator's ticket called, Ivan?
Yeah.
I meant to ask you about this actually.
Yeah, so
what is the process there?
Yeah, so the process here is basically, you go to a training company, or when I did it, there used to be a trainer that would come out to you. So when I did it years ago, and I don't know if they still do it this way, but a guy came out onto the site. I was working with some relatives, and I said, I want to get my ticket. So he came out and he just said, all right, give me a bit of a demonstration of what you can do. And I sat in the excavator and he said, all right, release the hitch, release the bucket, put it back on, go over there, dig a little bit. All right, show me what else you can do. Show me where all the controls are. It was very basic, and he gave me a ticket at the end of it and said, "All right, I think you're competent. That's it." So it's just like a little piece of, like a little card, and it just gives you basically like a license. So
And
I don't know if
how long
that's
does that last then for them?
and their lifetime. There's no
Lifetime.
there's no expiry, man, on that.
Is
So that's
that
what.
accredited? Is
Yeah,
it
well,
accredited with anybody?
these are registered training organizations. Yeah, so it's accredited, but I don't know if there's like a. It's not like a national registered license, like a car license and that. It's just like a separate little thing. So I know there's going to be a lot of critics on here saying he doesn't know what he's saying, but that's the way I look at it. And then now you've got more people going towards actual training companies, and they're getting trained for 2 or 3 days or 5 days, and they get to sit on the machine in that time and get trained on everything from loading, unload, like how to I'm talking about excavators in particular, how to unhitch attachments, hitch them back on, how to load trucks, how to dig trenches, and then they just give you like what we call an operator's ticket, which is basically an operator's like a license, but that's just through a registered training organization. Then when you go to work somewhere, so if you work on one of the rail infrastructure companies or somewhere where like a government job, they'll actually have somebody assess your competency. So when you get to site, you can show them that you've got the operator's ticket, but that's not enough. They want to actually do verification. It's a VOC, verification of competency, something like that. So the guy will come out, which is usually just like a safety officer. He'll come out and test you on your basic skills again, just to verify that you do know what you're doing, and that's how everyone gets their tickets. So the funny thing here is though they do a lot of combinations where you go in and you get your skid steer, you get your skid steer, roller, little dumpster or little dumpy truck, and excavator tickets all in one. You can go and do like a short course and get all of them in one shot. And then they come out and say, all right, and they start ringing me. And I used to get a lot of guys ringing me up saying, yeah, I've just got my tickets. I'm ready to work. So when can I start? And I'm like, man, that's not how it works. Like you've just done a 5-day course. I can't put you on the job by yourself and go ahead and start digging, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's pretty much the same here in the UK, but a
yeah.
lot stricter. So what you've just said there is pretty much the same, but under two different accreditors. So you've got CPCS, which is the main one here in the UK, and then you've got MPAUS, which is another main one, but probably not as strict as CPCS. You've got a couple more little awarding bodies within the industry, but they don't mean anything. The main ones which are recognised in the UK is the CPCS and MPAUS. But from what you just said there is pretty much right how we do it, but ours is a lot stricter.
Yeah.
A lot stricter. There's a lot more hoops
like
to jump through.
Like, I think a license lasts for 5 years, does it, Chris? I can't remember, because I know mine's up in March 2025.
Yeah. So how it works here in the UK, we'll just choose CPCS for example. So you'll ring me up. You want to do a course, and obviously I'll vet you. Blah blah blah. Let's start with a roller, for example. Probably one of the easiest ones to do, or a little forward tipping dumper. First thing you've got to do under this certain accreditation is you've got to have a health and safety environmental test for general operatives. Right? It's bollocks. It's bullshit, and it is. It costs money. It's not It's not 100% relevant relative to an operator. It's a lot about site rules and procedures.
We have that.
Health and safety.
Yeah,
health
we
and
have
safety stuff like that.
We call it a
So
white card. Yeah, we call it the white card, the safety. Well, they used to call it the red card. Now it's become a white card. Yeah, so it's just an overall safety course thing that you do. Yeah, to get a little ticket.
It's in a little office. It's videoed.
Yeah,
it's videoed by it's obviously recorded. You've also got somebody watching you as well. And it's basically 50 questions with multiple choice answers, and you've got to achieve 46 out of 50 to achieve it. 46 is your minimum achievement mark. Once you pass that, then you're now eligible. You'll have a profile created, and then you're eligible then to sit a test, if you like. So then you'll go and do your training, and then you do your test. So that's one way of it, how it works. And then you've got another accreditation, which is MPAWS, which is, we've just been accredited for, I've not released this one yet, neither. But we've just been approved and accredited for MPAWS. We've just got our MPAWS accreditation. But neither me or none of my other trainers are MPAWS instructors yet. So I'm a CPCS trainer and a CPCS instructor and tester. But I've never sat the MPAWS one. So I've got that booked in January, which is a bridging course, because I can prove my record of experience through one accreditation. I'm now eligible to do the 5-day bridging course, which is a training course. So from January onwards, I will be able to deliver MPAWS. Now, I don't know too much about it because I don't do it, but from what I can gather from it is it's a little bit easier in terms of you've still got to have a HSE test. You still got to have that environmental test where you sit down and you answer your 50 questions. But when you do a test on MPAWS, it's handwritten and it's multiple choice answers, whereas on CPCS it's verbally asked and verbally answered. So I'll ask you a question, you'll tell me the answer, and it's all recorded. And there's a minimum achievement mark as well. So there's no multiple choice options, no multiple choice answers there. So the MPAWS side of things is a little bit easier. And there's a big thing in the UK at the minute with the 2 accreditations. It's harder to get a CPCS card than it is to get a MPAWS card. Without getting into the politics of it, it's one of them. There's a lot of dodgy things going off with certain things within the industry and stuff like that. And in my opinion, like certainly when we start doing it, there'll be no difference in the way I deliver the CPCS training or testing to how I deliver the MPAWS training and testing. There should be no difference in it. A lot of people say, "Oh, MPAWS is cheaper." It shouldn't be cheaper. There's no reason why it should be cheaper. If training's cheap, it's cheap for a reason. It's like if you go and you can put a price in for somebody to do whatever. So that job what you've just done on that with all the landscaping and stuff like that. If you undercut everybody to get that job, there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? It's like we've just had a load of house renovations done as well, like massive shift around in the house. Like we're under construction at the minute. We specifically waited for a certain builder because we wanted him because he had a good reputation. We'd heard a lot of good things about him. We'd seen a lot of his stuff and stuff like that. And we waited and waited and waited for him. You know what I mean? But we had a lot of other contractors coming to us saying, "Oh, I can do you this for this. I can knock a couple of grand off that." There's a reason why you can knock a couple of grand off that. Yep. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean? So it's the same with training as well. Like there's a quote that I always say, like you pay cheap, pay twice. It's cheap for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you have to? Matt was saying his license is coming up for renewal. So how does that work, Matt? So you guys have a 5-year license, is it?
Yeah. So I think you'll help me with this, Chris. I think because every category of license I got, like the Dozer, the wheel excavator, the tracked excavator, the 180 backhoe, I got to set a renewals test on each item of plant. Is that right, Chris? Like questions?
Are you're CPCS, aren't you?
Yeah.
You got MPAWS?
Yeah.
Yeah, CPCS. Yeah, so
CPCS. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I can't remember.
So your first,
it was 5 years ago.
So as you come through the industry as a new learner, you get issued with a red card, and on the front of the red card it says trained operator, and that's valid for 2 years. So you've got 2 years then to become a competent operator. So then at the end of the 2 years, or as soon as you're competent, you'll then get in touch with you get in touch with an assessor. An assessor will come out, just a bit like what you said, Ivan. An assessor will come out and do an on-site assessment on you. He'll take some video evidence. He'll go for a rake of paperwork. He'll go around your site. He'll ask you questions about your site, your signing in procedures, your health and safety policies, all that sort of stuff. He'll ask for a witness testimony of either a foreman or a supervisor or a work colleague. Someone to state that he's witnessed them operating that machine. So it's a little bit of a long process. And once the assessor's happy with it, the assessor will then sign him off as a competent operator. So then the operator will get a competent operator card through his post, which will be valid for 5 years. And then at the end of the 5 years, it's changed again. It's always changing. It's always changing, and it's all about that, and that is what it is about. And I agree with everybody who says it's a money making.
It's a money scam.
It is, because there's no need for it. At the end of the 5 years, you'll then go and renew your health and safety test, because your health and safety test, listen to this one, only lasts for 2 years, whereas the rest of your card, when your competent operator card, lasts for 5 years, but your health and safety test only lasts for 2 years.
That's weird.
Okay?
Why?
So if you want to
and can I take this as well?
What's that?
When I done my health and safety, why are my questions all on scaffolding? And when I don't even go up a I don't even go up a scaffold.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I've just had to renew all mine, and I got 49 out of 50. And that's only because I revised for it, and I did revise for it, because I failed one before. As simple as the test is, I failed one. So I revised for it. I got 49 out of 50, and I thought, what did I get wrong? And it doesn't tell you what question you got wrong. It just tells you the area you got it wrong with, and it was scaffolding. That's the one I got wrong.
Yeah.
It was what's the gap between the handrail and the kickboard? I think it was 450, 470, or 400.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'll go in the middle. I'll go 450.
Yeah.
It's 470. The gap's supposed to be 470. That's the one I got wrong. But yeah, so then you'll get a competent operator's card, and then at the end of the 5 years, you've got to renew that, and then you go in, you renew your health and safety test, and then you've got to renew. There's 10 questions on each category what you hold. So if you hold Dozer, there'll be 10 questions on that. Excavator, 10 questions on that. Roller, 10 questions on that. But some of the categories are grouped into families. So a 360 excavator and a 180 backhoe, JCB. They're grouped together. It's the same thing.
Oh.
Right? A dozer and a track loading shovel. It's grouped. It's the same thing. So you've got your telehandler, which is separate. Your roller, which is separate. So you've got to do your 10 questions on each one. And that's how you renew your tickets. Now, what they've done now is they've done it all online. So I've not done it this way yet. It's just from what I've heard from the boys. Now you watch a 5-minute video, and then you answer a couple of questions based on the video what you've seen, and you get your tickets renewed. We used to have a scheme called grandfather rights back in. It was just before my time. I never fell into this. I never fell into the grandfather rights thing. Basically, if you obtain tickets before a certain date, when you come to renew them tickets, the scheme back then would allow anybody, basically, somebody with an assessor's qualification, would allow them to add, say like I said to Matt, and like say you two, like Matt Ivan, listen, I can get Dozer, grader, track excavator, tower crane, I can get these all added onto your card because of this scheme what's come out. And you're like, sound, happy days. Right? Yeah. So you'd be awarded all these categories for all these years, but you've never driven some of them. You might have driven like a couple of them, but you weren't sort of like competent in other ones. And then every time you renew your tickets, you just renew them, basically just how I've said, right? And you keep getting the ticket another 5 year in it, another 5 year in it. You might have a ticket for a grader, but you can't drive.
Yeah.
Because you got awarded it back in the day, you've still got it. So what they've done now, and part of me agrees with it, like half of me agrees with the way they've done it, but half of me doesn't agree with the way they've done it. I agree with it for those who are genuine and who can operate all them categories, what they've got under grandfather rights, but I don't agree with it for those who aren't genuine and got the categories awarded under false pretenses. So what they're doing now is you've got to go, and this is bollocks as well, you've got to go and sit and have a competency interview with somebody in an office who's not necessarily competent themselves on the categories what you're trying to justify, whether they deem you competent or not. It's bollocks.
Yeah. You know, that's one of my favourite words when I hear an English person say bollocks. I love it. Bollocks. I love it.
Well, hang on. The bloke who done my Dozer didn't have never even started to operated one in his life. But yet he's assessing me It says to me,
This,
see if I'm
this is it.
competent, but yet you've never sat one in his life.
You know what that?
This is where this is where I don't agree with
You
it.
know what?
You know
It's bollocks. That's right. I love it.
I've been trying so
bollocks.
hard not to swear.
I know it's hard to resist. You don't have to.
I've got a piece of paper at the side of me, and I showed it to my wife earlier. It's like, I've got a couple of questions. You know what I mean, and at the top of it says, "Don't swear."
Look, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's whatever comes. It's natural. I want these interviews to be as natural as possible. So whatever happens, if you swear, other guys in my other podcast swear as well. So it's not. I think nowadays it's become like the norm anyway. Just swearing is still it's more and more acceptable.
I think the Australian vocabulary and the English vocabulary is very, 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 very close in terms of British will swear because it's part of their it's part of the dialogue.
Yes,
it fits, and I find that the Australians swear because it fits in what they're saying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It might not be like an abusive thing. It's just part of a normal conversation. Yeah, that's it. That is it. That is
part
it.
of a sentence.
Yeah, that's the one, man.
It's part of a sentence 4 times.
It's a filler. If you can't think of a word, you just put a swear word in there.
Fucking fuck.
Yeah, that's right. And people will still understand what you're saying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. I really do. I appreciate you guys coming on and talking. It's been really, really interesting, especially to hear about how you guys go about your training over there, and and how you're going with the business and the weather. Because a lot of people here probably don't look at posts from the other side of the world. They might be just sort of stuck with looking at the Australian content. So it's good for people to see what happens around the world. Now it has been about an hour, so I try not to go too long because I know people start to doze off if we go longer than an hour.
Yeah, somebody has been yapping on.
Speak on.
You keep asking me questions. Asking questions. Listen, I've got a lot to talk about. I've got a list of things that I could talk about, but we haven't got time. I've got just one question for you, Ivan.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got into doing this. Why did you get into this podcast thing?
Okay.
How did that come about?
Yeah, no, I'm glad to answer that. I get asked this question a lot, and I have different answers every time depending on how I feel. But the main thing is I did see a gap where yeah, that's right. So it's not I can tell you one thing, it's not a money making decision. It wasn't so I could go and make mega bucks. It was one because I saw a gap, like you said, with your business as well. I saw a gap there. Nobody was really doing this in Australia. A couple of guys in the States were doing this already, I saw. And I thought, you know what, we need like a central hub where everybody in the industry can relate to it and can go and get information and find out things and see. And one thing I wanted is every time I have a conversation with someone in our industry, it seems that we're all doing the same thing and we've all got the same issues and we're all having the same problems and that. And I was like, why don't I get people to come on and talk about their businesses and what they do so everyone can see, like, shit, we're in the same boat. We're exactly the same. You know what I mean? Just to try and bring everyone together. So I started the podcast so I can bring guests on, people can share their experiences, all that sort of stuff. But then I started the website where I thought I'll make a website where everyone can list their businesses and people can find contractors and find each other when they need them. And then I've expanded it and put tip sites on there. So if people need to find where to take material, people can go on the website and find somewhere. So if you're stuck on the job, and you're thinking, shit, where am I going to take all this material? You can go to Earthworks Hub. You look up tip sites and say, closest tip to me, and then go there and you can take your material. Even for jobs now, I've added on there. So if people are looking for workers or people are looking for work, they can go on the website, advertise that they're looking for one or the other. So it's more about giving back, because I've been in the industry for since 2011, I think. So what's that? I don't know, over 12 years or whatever it is.
Long enough.
Yeah, long enough. And a bit before that as well, just on and off. But I know what it's like, especially for guys that have got businesses. They need resources. They need somewhere to go and be able to hear about things and see things. And then I started doing videos on operating, showing people, giving them tips, like what Matt does, taking recordings of myself during the day, and I can see the gap there, and then it's developing. I'm getting more sponsors now. It's getting traction, and that's when I had to say, I can't run my excavator business and employees and everything and do this. It was just becoming a bit too much. So I was like, you know what? I really enjoy doing this, and I see the gap. I can see the opportunity there. I'm just going to go for it, man. So that's why I've actually downsized, got rid of all my machines. Now I just casually freelance for people just to keep the cash flow going, and then while I've got a chance to build this up, So and here I am, man. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, it's good. It's like I can remember when you first popped up. Well, you first popped up on my feed.
Yeah.
And obviously, I tagged you in a couple of videos and stuff like that. Like your videos, you liked a couple of mine. But no, that you've progressed. You've gone like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you really have.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Matt, like you know what I mean? When I look at Matt's followers and stuff like he's shot up. It's good.
Yeah.
Like people like that. People like Matt are good for the industry. I could probably count on one hand, like the people who I'd recommend within the industry who are good for the industry. I mean, Matt's one of them.
Yeah.
Like we need more people like that. You know what I mean? It's good, and like more like yourself. There's a guy in the UK who I was talking to him about the other day, and I've approached him a couple of times. Like, let's do a podcast. Like, get me on. I've got some interesting, not about me.
Yeah.
Because his podcast is about the industry here in the UK, and the reason the industry is the way the industry is because of the training.
Yeah.
So I've kind of messaged him and reached out and like, let's do a podcast. I'll be honest and controversial about it. You know what I mean? But he's not bit on it.
No, he hasn't. I'll tell you what, man. If you've got similar issues in I suppose in England, and I hear it in the States and everywhere, I feel like we need, and a lot of guys agree with me, we need like an apprenticeship style approach. I feel like we need an apprenticeship or traineeship style where you can get young people out of school, if they're keen to get into the industry, bring them into your work site and put them on as like an apprentice, and then they go through and get qualified in one machine and another machine, and then and while they're actually working, they're getting qualified. And I feel like that's what we need. But at the moment, there's nothing like that here. It's just go and do your training, get your tickets, and then hope for the best, and you're left on your own. And I feel like that would be a fix, but I don't know how we'd go about it. Like it's a big process.
Health and safety is a big thing now over here.
Yeah,
that's the you can't really jump on a wheel arch of a digger while somebody's operating it, and you've got to. That's how I learned, sitting on a wheel arch of a digger, but you can't do that these days, can you? You just you can't.
The industry doesn't allow it. Is there a shout for training in over where you are, Ivan? Is there a demand for it?
There is, and the what happens is a lot of these training companies are getting government grants and stuff to cover the cost of training. So there's a lot of people offering, or companies offering training for like 32 weeks, and it's all free. So if you have reached a certain criteria, it's free training for 32 weeks, and you get trained. I think you go in like 3 or 4 times a week, and you get trained on various types of equipment, and at the same time you'll get your health and safety card. So it's like an all-in-one civil construction course. I think it's called a Certificate 3 in Civil Construction. So you can go and do that, and the government will give you government assistance. You'll actually get that for free if you meet certain criteria. Yeah, so that's how. And then there's a lot of companies popping up, that do offer training. But the problem, like I said, is we're getting a lot of people going in, doing that training. They get out, and then that's it. They've got no actual on-site job skill. They've just been shown, the basics, and they get out. And they're the people that are looking for work, and then you can't put them on. You go to put someone on like that, the customer will tell you, get rid of this guy straight away. I can't even, they can't get him to do anything.
See,
so
a 32-week program though is like, in my eyes, is massive. If somebody, if I was setting somebody on to go out and drive a machine for me, not train, but drive a machine for me, and they came to me and said, I've just done a 32-week program and I've covered this. 32 weeks is massive to me, as opposed to somebody coming and saying, I've just done 4 days training on a digger and I got tested on the 5th. Can I have a job?
Yeah.
Can you see the difference there though? Like
yeah, it is.
Weeks,
I think that's
it's
why
massive.
they're doing that. Yeah, they're introducing like these longer term ones, and specifically for
Why
people. Sorry.
Why are they struggling to get a job with an employer then after 32 weeks of training?
Oh, I think it's because there's people have expectations that as soon as you come up to a machine, you're going to know exactly what you want to do, what you can. Customers here have big expectations, and because they think they're paying, they think that they're paying us a lot of money. They automatically expect that when you come on site, you're going to know everything, and you need to know how to use that machine inside out. And as soon as they see a little, even now as an experienced operator, sometimes I'll go on site and customers will be judging me. They'll be like trying to come and tell me, oh, look, can you just go and dig over there? Or shouldn't you be starting over there? And I feel like telling them, just piss off.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing, mate.
I do say that.
Yeah.
I do say
that. I do as well. I turn around and say, I tell you what, mate. I says, do you want to get it in and show me?
Yeah.
You get in and show me. And they'll go like this.
Yeah, so I don't know. It is, and then at the moment though, it's very quiet. That was going to be one of my questions. One of my questions is going to be: it's very, very quiet in Melbourne in particular. High interest rates. People aren't building new homes. There's been civil sites are very, very quiet. They've actually put off a lot of subcontractors. So there's a lot of guys looking for work at the moment. And we've got a huge influx of people. Like a mate of mine that was advertising recently for a worker, and he had over 100 applicants, and they were all like high caliber workers. So there's obviously not much going on. What's it like there? Like now, the interest rates are slowly like on hold. They're predicting that maybe next year things will improve and everything will start building again. But I'm not sure. What about you guys? How is it over there?
It slowed up. I think it slowed up a bit in Wales. It slowed up a bit. The houses are still being built, but they're not being built in as much as they was then. But like the most of the big infrastructure work, with like your HS2 and the railway, and that's all over across in England. So, and I don't know much about over there no more. I don't venture to the other side, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This year, the back end of last year, at first I thought it was to do with the weather because we didn't have a great summer, and then sort of like started this year. I always go on this. If I'm not busy, something's wrong. Like there's something wrong within the industry somewhere if training providers aren't busy. Not just myself, but a lot of other training providers sort of like in my area and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this year it's been a shocking year. It's been an accumulation of weather, cutbacks on site, interest rates, all that sort of stuff. It's been an accumulation of a lot of different things, which is and it's still not sort of like picked up.
Yeah.
Like the reason I got busy within sort of like the last 3 months is because we've got access to the funding for certain courses, and that's the only reason I sort of like managed to get myself fill the spaces for the courses. So I run this week is my last week of training. I normally stop training in November because of the weather, because I don't want to risk the weather. So I normally sort of like stop the civils training in November, December, January, February, and then I go back to the civils training in March. So in them 4 months, I drop onto the rail side of things because we do a lot of in-house training, and we do a lot of rail training as well. So I normally drop onto them or on-site assessments and stuff like that. But I'm lucky in a sense that we managed to keep busy till now.
Yeah.
Especially with the weather what we've had as well. But yeah, it's the same here. It is the same. We're feeling that one, definitely.
Yeah.
It's all to do with money.
Yeah.
And the government, obviously the new government what's got in and stuff like that. A lot of the reasons why people voted for this new government is because they promised, I don't know what it was something like 6 million houses, Matt, or something daft like that. You know what I mean, to be built, which is obviously boost the economy, boost the construction industry. We've got one of the biggest contracts going through the UK at the minute called HS2. They've done HS1, they're doing HS2. They've spent billions and billions on that, and then that just came to a stop. And when that came to a stop, the civils industry went down because it had kind of moved to different locations of the country. I felt as a training provider, this new government what's come in, I don't know whether they're going to put the money into invest into the housing and into developments and construction sites. I don't know whether the construction industry will start to boom again. I think we're in a mess.
I tell you where they need to put some money is in. It's off subject, but in British farming, because they've been screwed lately by our government.
Yeah.
Is it 40% inheritance tax, Chris, or more now?
I'm not sure on the figures, mate, but I keep posting. Like, I've not done no content for a while on my TikTok. My content on TikTok at the minute is all about the government because I want them out. I want the UK to stand up to what's happened and be like, no, let's force a revolt, let's force a re-election because something needs to change. We can't carry off with a government like this. I'll be coming living with you, Ivan. I'll be coming knocking on your door, mate.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, anytime, man. Anytime, come down.
Honestly,
yeah.
This country's not in a good way at the minute.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, look, to be honest,
like a circus.
Yeah. I agree. I don't even know if Australia's any better, to be honest. We're supposed to be getting all these immigrants coming in and supposed to be helping boost the economy, and then we're supposed to be having all these new. I can't remember what the figure was, but they're supposed to be as well. Supposed to be allowing a lot more houses to get built, or like a boost as well, and all this sort of stuff. Getting rid of stamp duty, all these things to try and improve things, but it's going to be a very, very slow process. So unfortunately, there's someone in my area that's decided to use a whippersnipper or a grass cutter. I can hear it in the background. Can you guys hear that?
A whippersnipper.
We call it a whippersnipper, a little grass clipper. You know, for the edging. What do you guys call them?
A strimmer. We call them a strimmer.
Strimmers.
Yeah. A strimmer.
Yeah, a whippersnipper. That sounds really sexual.
Yeah.
You don't. I'm just gonna go whip the whipper out.
It's gonna go whip my snip out.
Yeah. Whippersnipper.
You know what it's like? Because I'm in the garage, I can hear everything outside. And it's like every time I go and start a podcast, it's all quiet beforehand. As soon as I click record or live, someone comes out, they're starting their car, you can hear a dog barking, someone's got their whippersnipper out. And then something always happens, A chopper's coming overhead. There's always something. You can't win.
So what have you got planned for the rest of the day then? So
today, what's today? It's 9:30 now. So now I've got to go and do. So I've got a couple more little posts I've got to do. I've got some stuff to work out with my sponsors. So I also do like a bit of property stuff in the background. I've got a few rentals and that. So I do some things with my investments. There's always something to do, man. Always something. I've got another 2 podcasts to get ready for. So I'm not doing them today, but I've got to finish all the questions and get it sort of down pat before I ask. So I've got a few interesting guests coming up. And then, that's basically, then I've got to go and do a couple of other things. So always something to do, even though I'm not on the machines every day, there's always something.
Chris,
always keep busy.
I bet he's not telling you. He's got to do the ironing and the hoovering.
Yeah, that's the one, man.
That's the bit he's not telling you.
Housework, man. Yeah.
I've got some pots to wash. So you know what I mean?
Have you? Actually, I've got to fit some pots.
My wife cooked tea. Yeah, my wife cooked the tea, so I'm going to wash the pots. So all load and unload the dishwasher.
Yeah,
whichever way you want to look at it.
That's what we do. That's what we rotate it. So if the wife cooks, then the kids and I wash the dishes or put them away at least. Anyway, you gotta work together. But I do want to fit the gym in there somewhere as well. I'll try and go to the gym somewhere today as well. So you've got to try and keep fit.
Part of our house renovation is what we was going to have in the front of the house as a snug is now become a gym. So we're going to have our own gym in the house instead of a snug, because the snug would have never got used anyway.
Yeah.
So both I'm into training, my wife's into training.
Yeah.
We train together as and when we can. She's a good little training partner, to be fair. So we're having a gym put in the house.
Matt's got a smile.
I'd rather have a bar put in the outside.
I've got one of them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, shit.
So when he sweat and like he can put it all back on when he has a cold beer after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
No, I do too.
no.
Yeah, you got to enjoy life. It's a balance. It's a balance. So you go to the gym, come home, have a drink, eat chocolate, and it's a balance. It's a balance. That's it. Well, you know what? I don't want to go for too long. Otherwise, like I said, viewers or listeners will start dozing off. But we do have a lot more we can talk about. So, if you guys are keen, we can do this another time as well. Do a second session if you guys are happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm up for it.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Oh, beautiful, man, beautiful. So, just to do a bit of a recap. If anyone wants to get in touch with yourself, Chris, so what's the best way for people to get in touch if they want to do any training?
So basically, we've got one thing I did mean to mention actually as well is I've got a YouTube channel, which is it's not big at the minute, but one thing I did want to do on it is I wanted to put the test spec criteria up there. So I've took the time out to do all the video footage and stuff like that for the Dozer test spec. So it goes from pre-start checks to warm-up procedures, function tests, and then I talk you through the whole test spec criteria all the way through it, what you can accumulate penalty points on, what you can fail on the mandatories, how to do certain things, how not to do certain things, all the way down to shutdown procedures. So I think we did about 10 or 11 4 to 5 minute videos. So they're all on YouTube. So if you want to check that YouTube channel out, just look up Dots Training on YouTube or get in touch with me on TikTok at the Dozer Trainer or Instagram at the Dozer Trainer or on Facebook, the Dozer Trainer. If you just search the Dozer Trainer, you'll find me, even though we do other things as well. But the company is called, if you want to check the website out, just check out Doctore On Track Training Services. And it's pronounced Doctore.
That's that's it. That's it. Nah, good, man.
You have to get it in again, Doctore.
Get it.
Doctore. Oh, that's good, man. No, I really appreciate you coming on and having a good chat. It's good to see how things work on the other side of the world. Matt as well, man. Thank you. I know Chris and I were probably doing most of the yapping. You didn't get much of a chance, sorry, man. But
no, I didn't. I think he got a bit excited, so I sort of let him have his limelight.
I get excited about stuff like this because I'm passionate about it and I've got a lot to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Yes, apologies if I've been waffling on.
No, that's good, man. That's good. Right. Very, very good. But Matt as well, thank you very much. Keep up the content and that. It's really, really good, man. Good to see someone out there helping out everyone and showing them how it's all done. Guys, I will leave it. Let's see. I'll leave it at this. I won't hold up all the viewers anymore. Thank you very much for joining me, and yeah, hopefully we can do this again soon. Thank you both for coming on.
Yep. Thanks for having us, Matt. Thanks for putting me in touch with Ivan.
Yeah, and you.
Thanks for having me on. But yeah, definitely for another one. Definitely.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right, gents, you have
perhaps I can talk for the change then.
Yeah, the next one we'll give Matt more of a chance to talk. That's it.
We'll get a dummy fins to suck on next time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. We'll put him on mute sometimes. Mute. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, listen. Right. Nice one. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Take care. Thank you. Thanks very much. To all the listeners as well. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.